All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Arkose Labs live broadcast. Today, we're breaking more live news. We've launched a new book, and it's called The ABCs of Fraud. With me to talk about the new book and fraud trends is our Chief Marketing Officer, Vanita Pandey, and our founder and CEO, Kevin Gosschalk, and I'm Richard Dufty. Welcome, Kevin, Vanita.
Hey, good to be here, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Richard.
Awesome. So, Kevin, I guess you and Vanita can now add author to your titles. So I think you get that little blue sticker on your LinkedIn profile now. So you've both co-authored the book, and it's really become a passion project. Wow, it's pretty awesome. Congrats, guys. I think it'd be great maybe for folks listening to understand why would a founder, CEO, and CMO of an account security company write a book, especially a children's book. Can you guys share why and why now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I could go first. So first of all, Richard, I was this year old today when I found out about the blue sticker. So thank you. And and I think, it was something that came out of a conversation that we were having, I think, when we were traveling through Europe last year about educating the people, having a glossary, and kind of really getting into a space where a lot of the folks that we protect are young kids. And Kevin, I know you're very passionate about it. So, how do we create a medium for people to understand the dangers out there, but also make it educational? Kevin?
Yeah, we are very fortunate to protect a very large portion of kids using the internet, certainly in the US. But also globally, a lot of video games and services like that, which make up a lot of kids' entertainment online. We're quite fortunate to do that, and it's really kind of fascinating to see how the younger minds work with regards to things like identity authentication, password sharing. We've done a number of studies in the past that kind of give us insight that they don't fully appreciate things like sharing a password is not so good, but maybe don't talk to talking to strangers on the internet, like that's kind of how you use the internet. But kind of typical ways they do exchanges, like some things they're more okay sharing, like credit cards they won't share, but passwords they'll share, even though ironically that's kind of the gateway to your credit card. So we've kind of seen some really fascinating things working to protect kids over the years.
So Kevin, I know one or two things about kids. I've got an 11-year-old that I constantly look down at my credit card statement and see Roblox and a whole bunch of other things. I've got a 1-year-old that is on her BlackBerry all the time. For anyone out there that doesn't know what that looks like, that's a real BlackBerry. And so, Kevin, I know with Chloe, my 11-year-old, it's to your point about the identity. She's just constantly logging in, forgetting her password, resetting a password, uses the same password everywhere. And I found out just the other day that the kids are sharing their passwords and their usernames without really thinking about that.
You are correct, and we see that across our customer base, and that's certainly something that a lot of parents that work in this field, I think, know very keenly. And the book, for those that haven't kind of seen it, this is a copy of what the book looks like, and really what it does is it unpacks different topics, like credential stuffing, which is kind of a relevant concept to talk about things like password reuse, right? So it's kind of a fun way to kind of help educate people on some of these topics. Phishing, these kind of concepts where people are trying to compromise accounts, kind of pretty mature topics, I would say. But these are relevant now when you're really young. These aren't going to be relevant when you're an adult. They're relevant protecting stuff that you use today as a kid. So we kind of wanted to kind of bring something, a tool to kind of help parents educate their kids on these kind of things.
Yeah, and Vanita, I mean, you've got a couple of young ones yourself. I mean, did this kind of come from some of the things you've been seeing at home?
Absolutely, and I think when the pandemic started, we quickly realized that a lot of the parents were using these digital platforms to educate the kids, to babysit their kids. Right? The game. It was every day was a holiday for the gaming companies, and as Kevin said, we protect a lot of them. So we did a couple surveys where we asked the kids, and some of the insights that Kevin brought and talked about, where they share passwords. I know parents do it too, but the kids really didn't realize the importance or what was at stake. A lot of these products are not built for a heterogeneous set of audience, right? They were built for more mature business folks, where the video conferencing platforms or shopping sites, and a lot of younger kids are being exposed to it. On the other side, we saw that a lot of kids' identities were already being compromised in the wild, and fraudsters were using this to launch attacks. So I think it came from the part that we needed to educate folks, but we've been approached by a lot of CISOs of these gaming companies because they're passionate about making sure that they protect the environment. And
so, Kevin, I know you've got a strong interest in personal interest in gaming, and there was a lot of connection between how Arkose was created. Can you talk to us about some of the gaming studios and gaming publishers that you've spoken to and worked with over the years, and some of the kind of insight that you've learned from them?
Yeah, and I think for us, it's been kind of really fascinating to learn from them around how kids look at authentication. So one example is younger kids. Younger than 10, if they get logged out of an account, maybe there's some kind of issue going on. Instead of logging back into the account, they go create new accounts. So there's kind of some really interesting challenges around this idea of how do you protect people where they don't fully understand the concept of what online authentication actually works like. So that's kind of a fascinating concept that we've kind of learned by partnering with these companies. And it's a really interesting conversation when it comes to how do you secure those accounts? Because if you're protecting a bank account, with adult audience members, you can use things like multi-factor. You can't really use those kind of concepts with kids. You got to think of alternative ways of keeping those accounts secure, and also educating the kids on things like password reuse. That's a great concept that unfortunately they might share accounts, or they might be duped into sharing an account. So that's kind of again what the book goes into, is people trying to scam you into giving you, if you give your password to me, I'll give you free in-game currency. No, they won't. They won't. They'll take what you've got in your account.
Right. And I know we've released some research around this in the press release this morning, but with kids' screen time doubling since the pandemic, I know you talk about these kids being prime targets. Is that example you just gave us? If there's folks listening out there, and they're a mum, dad, what should they be looking for? What are you seeing as kind of the biggest risk for their kids?
Yeah, I mean, it is authentication. Don't share accounts with your friends, because you don't know who they're going to share it with. Maybe you can trust, your closest friend, but who knows where they're then sharing it onto. You kind of see that stuff like streaming service accounts. They'll be, I want to watch the same show, give me your password and username. But then that gets shared to other people and then eventually ends up in the wrong hands. And also, don't fool for any schemes or scams where people are if you give me your credentials, I'll do something for you. It's that's not how things work. A lot of that sort of stuff happens. And then there's also other kids trying to scam kids and stuff like this too. But authentication is so important. Make sure you choose a strong, secure password. If, as a parent, turn on things like checking transactions. There's a lot of great tools that companies now provide. You can go in and control with parental controls, a lot of features. Yes. And with passwords, so passwords are something we still have across the internet. We're all using them. That's the kind of world we live in today. You want to kind of help get your kids to choose a strong password. Maybe make up something from a bunch of different toy names. Don't just use one name as your password. Maybe combine a bunch of toys or characteristics. It's a red unicorn named, I don't know, Barry.
So I should
use that as a password.
So I should tell Chloe I love my dad the most isn't the best password. She should use everywhere.
Probably not specific enough. Yeah, you probably want to go something a bit more unique to Chloe. Maybe, I don't know if you can use the words Richard is the world's best dad. That feels a bit.
That'd be great.
I don't know if.
Security number, and it'll get very specific.
But yeah, you want to use a passphrase as opposed to just a word. So use a phrase that describes an object, something that's special to your kid, something they can remember, even if it's a long thing, something they can remember. So that's a good example of something that's quite tangible you could change.
Okay. And Vanita, I know that as part of this project, you've been working with the Family Online Safety Institute on this initiative, and you want to talk about that? And I believe we're donating all the proceeds. Is this a book that we're going to be selling, or?
That's a good question. And I think, we are making it available to, certain schools have reached out, certain folks have reached out. We're sending it over. We are going to be selling it on Amazon, and we'll be posting the link shortly, and all other bookstores. And yeah, we are going to be donating, right? I think it's an important aspect that the world of cybercrime is incredibly connected, well-resourced. We just heard from Brett Johnson. He provides a lot of insights on how cyber criminals think, and they are not discriminating between an elderly, vulnerable, person and a kid, right? They are, going to optimize and monetize whichever way possible. I did want to add to what Kevin was saying. I think as a parent, we have to be very careful and look at the digital footprint of our children, right? It's a lot of times the children are using the password and the email address of the parent because they're using those accounts to log in. They're sharing credentials across the household. Every time the child creates a new credential, a new email account, as Kevin talked about, it exposes them to another surface of abuse. So being able to know that what's happening is really, really critical. And then finally, educating, right? One of the words we picked was S is for social engineering. These fraudsters are incredibly talented. They know what they do. They probably have psychology degree. They know how to really get to us folks who work in the industry, right? So what about the kids?
So you just threw out one of the letters. I've got to ask you guys, when you were putting this together, what was the hardest letter to come up with?
I would say X. I did drop the mic, and Kevin was like, "That doesn't make sense." But I said cross-border fraud. I think we cheated. We kind
of cheated a little on X. That goes to show how hard X was. Yes.
I think X and Y were cheating.
I was going to say Y is an interesting one, but we're not going to tell people. People have to pre-order the book. And I know I'm getting some inbox messages here asking, are the authors able to sign these copies for people as well?
Absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, we would be.
Of course. Of course. We'll ship them from our headquarters here in the Bay Area. So we can, if you have names of your kids that you want us to make it out to, we're happy to do that.
Richard, I did want to ask you a question, though.
All right. You're asking the host a question. All right. I'm ready for this.
We're part of the team. We all were working on this, concept together. As you look at it, as you go out and talk to folks in the industry, and you figure out where do you think we could, use this to educate? Like, what are some of the opportunities you're looking at?
It's funny. I mean, so we were just in Las Vegas for MRC, which was a great event, and whilst this was obviously written to help with the education of young children, teenagers, et cetera, we actually met with a bunch of folks that were new to their role in the security industry around fraud and account security that actually were picking up copies. I'm sure you'll remember, and we're actually saying this is actually a great introduction for people on my team and people at my company. The average, I think, team member at any company probably doesn't really know what some of these terms are and how to think about it. And I know our CIO and CISO, Phil, is always obviously working really closely with all of our teams on education, awareness, and compliance. And so it was interesting to hear from others how relevant that this was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's interesting how difficult it is actually to ramp somebody into this space, because there's so many unique concepts and terms that you'll be aware of if you're a victim to one of those crimes, but otherwise you don't really come across. So I think that's, people like, who compromises who's going after my video game accounts, my streaming accounts? Why would they do that? It's actually, if you think about it, you make a lot of money by doing that. So there's a lot of people going after those kind of accounts, but otherwise people just don't really think about that normally. So it is kind of interesting, and it's actually a pretty good primer, even for somebody that's new in the space.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we often think in the corporate world around the monetization component, but as the dad of an 11-year-old, going on 21, you start worrying about the identity, but also just the access to that individual's, information and what people could do with that, and bullying, the impact of bullying and cyberbullying, et cetera. And I think that's, something as a parent that I'm probably more worried about than losing money in an in-app game, right? So it's all connected.
Absolutely. And I think, but I think the whole, as the book came out at MRC, I was surprised with how many people came in and said, oh my God, my kid got duped or they lost $10 of games. It may not matter, but it all adds up. That's what feeds the cybercrime ecosystem.
So, I guess what's next? First authoring, is this going to be the start of a series?
Beginning. We're
Kevin,
thinking about what's book 2, what's book 3. How else can we help educate the masses more on these topics? It is something we're thinking about. We'll see how we go. We'll see what the reception is on book number 1 first.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we look forward to this jumping to the New York best sellers list. So I know it's on pre-order, available now on Amazon, and folks can for a limited time follow the link on the website and get a copy. But well, I think that's it. Great launch. Guys, we've obviously seen so much positive interest around this. It's obviously a lot of fun and a way to give back as well. So congratulations to both of you on your first book.
Thank
That's
you
great.
a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks having
Richard.
me.
Yeah. Thanks, Vanita, on helping me getting this book all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to say bye?
We got to have Riley author the next book, Richard.
Well, yeah, maybe she can do the drawing, because my drawings aren't that great, as Kevin has seen.
I know.
We have seen that. Yes.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. See you next time.